Jessica from the Boys and Girls Club. For this week's activity, we're going to be making some positive self-talk journals. So to do this activity, you're going to need a piece of paper and some scissors. You'll also need something that you can write and draw with, and a stapler or even just a piece of tape, because the stapler or piece of tape is going to kind of help us keep all of the pages of our journal together. So let's get started. The first step for making our positive self-talk journal is to grab a sheet of paper like this. And what we're going to be doing is we're just going to fold the paper in half. So I'm actually going to turn the paper this way so it's a little bit easier to see. So I'm just going to take this side of the paper, fold it here. Just want to make sure that it's nice and straight and fold it in half evenly. Make sure the sides line up really well. Once you have these sides lined up, push down and fold. Then we're actually going to fold this piece of paper again. So I'm going to just turn it this way so it's a little bit easier. And I'm going to take this side and put it on top of this side. Again, making sure everything is nice and straight and lined up evenly. So now our paper has been folded into kind of a smaller rectangle. We're actually going to open it up again. Open up all of the folds so that our paper is back to its original kind of look. And we're going to start cutting. So we're going to cut out each of these 4 sections because these 4 sections are eventually going to become pages in our positive self-talk journal. And so I'm just going to grab a pair of my scissors. And I'm going to cut right along the folds that we made. And try to make sure that you cut kind of along those folds as closely as you can. Just so that your pages are super straight and pretty even when you do put them together to make your journal. Okay, and so now we're also going to cut along here. Go to the bottom of the page, and again cut along that fold line as closely as you can. And we're going to just do one more cut on this section. Folding along this line. I'm going to hold it this way though, just so it's a little bit easier to cut it. I find it a little bit easier to cut it when the fold is kind of facing you and like you open the page so that the fold is at the bottom, not kind of coming to a point at the top. I like it to kind of look like a V. That's just the way I cut it. You might have an easier way cutting it a different way. But again, you're just going to make sure that you're cutting along that fold nice and straight. And take your time with it too, because the neater it is, the nicer your journal will look. So now we have 4 pieces that are cut out. So our big sheet of paper is now 4 smaller sheets of paper. And eventually when we do finish our journal, we're going to have these 4 pieces of paper on top of each other, kind of like this. And that will be our, it's a short, but it's going to be our little self-talk journal. But before we kind of put everything together, we're going to start filling in the pages. So I'm going to take one of my pages. I'll put these other ones to the side for now. And this first page is just going to be the cover page of my journal. So I'm going to write my name and then positive self-talk journal. So I'm going to write Jessica's positive self-talk journal. For you, you would write your name and then positive self-talk journal. So right here, I'm going to write it. Okay, so this is my front page, Jessica's Positive Self-Talk Journal. And I'm gonna decorate it a little bit later, but first I'm gonna move on to the second page. So I'll show you all of our sentence starters first, and then we can kind of come up with some ideas for those sentence starters. So the first sentence starter for our first page is going to be something I am grateful for is. So we're gonna write that. But make sure that when you do write on this page and the next two pages, that you leave some room on this side because eventually you will be putting a staple here. So I think maybe put 1 or 2 fingers there and then start writing maybe where your fingertip ends, just so that you have room to staple it. So our first sentence starter is something I am grateful for is. So that's our first sentence starter. We're just gonna leave that there. Bring down our second kind of journal page. And this journal page is going to be one where we talk about different accomplishments that we made. And so our sentence starter, again, making sure we have at least a fingertip of room before we start writing, is going to be an accomplishment I made this week was. And so here we're going to just think about some of the things that we did this week. And I know it might be a little tricky because we are all staying home. And when you're staying home, there might be a little bit less things that you can do, but we'll try to think of some things. It doesn't need to be anything super kind of super like out of this world. It could just be anything that you're kind of doing around the house. And then our last sentence starter is going to be something that went well today was. So I'm going to write that. Again, make sure you have a fingertip space of room and then you start writing. Something that went well today was. And so this is just where we're going to think of something that we did throughout the day, and we're going to just write about it in our journal. So these are our 4 pages. Again, this is our cover page. This is our first, second, and third page of the writing part of our journal. So we're going to start this first page. Something I am grateful for is. So this is just where you're going to think about anything that you're grateful for. Maybe you're grateful for a special talent that you have. Maybe you're grateful for being able to knit, or maybe you're grateful for being able to stay home and stay safe. Maybe you're grateful for some of your siblings. You could be grateful for maybe a pet that your family has. Anything that you're really happy that you have. So for me, I'm going to write down my family because my family is something that I'm grateful for. So right here, I'm going to write my family. And so after we've written our sentence, there's a lot of room at the bottom of our page. And so this is where it's kind of up to you what you want to do. You could draw a picture if you want. You could also, if you have like pictures that are printed off, maybe like of you or maybe of the thing that you're grateful for, you could even print that off and glue it right down here on the page. Maybe if you have like magazines or newspapers, you could maybe flip through those pages and see some pictures that maybe you like, that you would want to cut out and maybe represent or symbolize, or just basically something that shows what you're grateful for. So how you decorate this section is up to you. I'm gonna draw something here, but I'll draw it later and I'll show you my piece at the end. For now, we'll move on to this next sentence starter. So an accomplishment that I made this week was. So like I said earlier, when we're at home, it's a little bit tricky to think of like some really big accomplishments that we might do when we're out. Maybe we play sports and One of the accomplishments could have been, oh, we won a soccer tournament or we won our soccer game. But when we're at home, you know, it's kind of harder to think of things. So just think of small acts that you might have done throughout the house. Maybe an accomplishment was that you made your bed in the morning. Maybe one of your accomplishments was that you went for a walk. Maybe an accomplishment was that you helped your parents make dinner. Maybe you helped clean the dishes. Just any small activities that you did that helped you accomplish something. And when we accomplish something, it just means that we were able to do something. We were able to succeed at doing something. So for me, an accomplishment that I made this week was that I made dinner for my family. So I ended up making a pizza. So I'm going to write that down at the end of this sentence starter. So an accomplishment I made this week was I made dinner for my family. Again, just always making sure we have room along the side here, because that's eventually, we'll be putting some staples there to keep our book together. And again, in this blank section, you can decorate it however you like. You could draw a picture, you could maybe cut out some pictures that you already have. Maybe if you have a printer at home and you want to print off some pictures that you find online with your parents' help, I'm sure that could be another thing that you could put in here. But again, I'm just going to draw some pictures later. And then our last sentence starter is something that went well today was. So this again is just something you're thinking of. You're just thinking about the day that you just had, and maybe think of some things that you did throughout the day. So it was a really nice day today. So what I did was I took my dog for a walk, and we went on a super long 1-hour walk. So I think that was something that went well today. It was a nice day and it was relaxing. And it was just a nice way to kind of get some fresh air. So for me, something that went well today was taking my dog for a walk. For you, maybe it could be something similar, or maybe you were playing with your siblings and you got along really well, and that was something that went well. Maybe you made a phone call to some of your family members or friends that you can't see when you're at home all the time, so that could be another thing that went well for you today. So just think of any good things that happened to you throughout the day that you want to write. And again, you can kind of decorate this section however you want. So I'm going to start drawing pictures from mine, and I'll show you my finished journal when I finish that. So these are some of my finished pages. You know, I'm not the best at drawing. That's my pizza. This is a sidewalk. But, you know, I drew some pictures that kind of related to what I wrote about in my journal. And so then I'm going to take all of my pages and put them together. But I do just want to mention that, like, if you do use marker to decorate your pages, it does bleed through, so that's why I like to write down everything and decorate it first before putting them all together, just so that some of the writing from this page doesn't bleed through to the next page. And so once you've decorated all of your pages, you're going to grab your front page first, then you're going to grab the Something I'm Grateful For page, put that right behind it. Then the An Accomplishment I Made This Week Was page. Put that at the bottom of your pile, and then you're going to take your Something That Went Well Today page and put that at the very bottom. And you're going to kind of tap it against the desk and just make sure that all of the pages are lined up evenly. And then this is where you can take a stapler, or maybe tape if you don't have a stapler, and you just put a staple on maybe 2 or 3 sections of the booklet that you're making. So maybe right there. And I'll put one there, and then a third one right there. And this should just hold my book together so that I can read through it like a journal. And so this is the Positive Self-Talk Journal. When you finish yours, if you want to share it with the Boys and Girls Club, that would be awesome. We'd love to see it.